Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of Horror Stories. I'm here to tell you what happened to me and my family when we stayed at the Overlook Hotel in Colorado. It was the winter of 1980, and my father, Jack, had taken a job as the caretaker of the hotel during the off-season. He thought it would be a good opportunity for him to work on his writing and for us to spend some quality time together. He was wrong. The hotel was an old and isolated place, surrounded by snow and mountains. It had a dark history of violence and murder, and it was haunted by the ghosts of its past. The hotel had a mind of its own, and it wanted to claim us as its victims. It started with my father. He became obsessed with his work, and he started to act strange and angry. He would spend hours in the hotel's ballroom, typing the same sentence over and over again. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. He would ignore me and my mother, Wendy, and he would snap at us for no reason. He also started to see and hear things that weren't there, like the ghost of a former caretaker who had killed his family and himself with an axe. I also saw and heard things, but they were different. I had a special gift that my mother called the Shining. It was the ability to see and communicate with the spirits of the dead and to sense things that others couldn't. I saw visions of blood and violence, of the hotel's past and future. I also met a friendly ghost named Dick Halloran, who was the hotel's cook. He had the Shining too, and he taught me how to use it. He also warned me about the hotel and told me to stay away from room 237, where something evil lurked. One day, I disobeyed him and went to room 237. I saw a woman in the bathtub who turned into a rotting corpse and tried to strangle me. I ran out of the room, screaming, and my mother came to my rescue. She saw the bruises on my neck, and she confronted my father. She accused him of hurting me, and she told him that we had to leave the hotel. He denied everything, and he became furious. He grabbed her by the throat, and he tried to kill her. I grabbed a knife, and I stabbed him in the hand. He let go of her, and we ran away. We locked ourselves in the bathroom, and we tried to escape through the window. But it was too small for my mother, and we were trapped. My father came after us, wielding an axe. He hacked at the door, shouting, "Here's Johnny!" He broke through the door, and he reached for us. I screamed, and I used my Shining to call for help. I hoped that Dick Halloran would hear me, and that he would come to save us. He did. He had driven all the way from Florida, and he arrived at the hotel just in time. He distracted my father, and he gave us a chance to escape. But my father killed him with the axe, and he chased us into the hotel's maze. It was a labyrinth of hedges and snow, and it was easy to get lost. I knew that my father was behind me, and that he wanted to kill me. I was scared, but I was also smart. I used my Shining to trick him, and I made him follow my footprints in the wrong direction. I doubled back, and I found my mother. We got out of the maze, and we got into Dick's snowcat. We drove away from the hotel, and we left my father behind. He died in the maze, frozen and alone. The hotel had taken him, and it had tried to take us. But we survived, and we escaped. We never went back to the Overlook Hotel, and we never looked back. That's my story, listeners. Thank you for listening, and remember, don't go to the Overlook Hotel. It's a place of horror, and it will never let you go. I never believed in ghosts until I moved into the old mansion on the hill. It was a bargain, too good to pass up. The previous owners had left in a hurry, leaving behind most of their belongings. I thought I had hit the jackpot. But soon I realized that something was terribly wrong with the house. Strange noises, cold spots, flickering lights, and moving shadows. I tried to ignore them, but they only got worse. I felt like I was being watched, followed, and tormented by unseen forces. One night, I decided to confront the spirits. I grabbed a flashlight and a recorder and ventured into the basement, where the activity seemed to be the strongest. I hoped to capture some evidence of the paranormal and maybe even communicate with them. I was wrong. So very wrong. As soon as I stepped into the dark, damp cellar, I felt a chill run down my spine. I heard a low growl followed by a loud bang. The door slammed shut behind me, locking me in. I screamed, but no one heard me. I was alone, with something evil. I turned on the flashlight and saw a horrifying sight. The walls were covered with blood, bones, and rotting flesh. The floor was littered with corpses, some fresh, some decayed. The smell was unbearable. I gagged and dropped the recorder. That's when I saw it. A twisted, monstrous creature with glowing red eyes, sharp teeth, and long claws. It was the source of the haunting, the killer of the previous owners, and my worst nightmare. It snarled and lunged at me. I don't know how I survived. I fought back with all my strength, but it was too strong, too fast, too vicious. It tore into my flesh, ripping and biting. I felt every wound, every pain, every drop of blood. I knew I was going to die, but I didn't. Somehow, I managed to escape. I crawled up the stairs, bleeding and broken. I reached the door and opened it. I ran outside, into the night. I didn't look back. I just kept running until I found help.
Hi guys,
I'm in the hospital now, recovering from my injuries. Doctors say I'm lucky to be alive. They don't believe my story. They think I'm crazy or lying. They say there's no such thing as ghosts or monsters. But I know the truth. I know what I saw, what I felt, what I heard. I know it's still there, in the house, waiting for its next victim. And I know it will never stop, never rest, never leave. I know because it told me. It said, I'll be back. I've been having nightmares ever since that night. Nightmares of the house, the basement, the creature. Nightmares of dying over and over again. I wake up screaming, sweating, shaking. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I can't function. I tried to tell the police, the media, anyone who would listen. But they all dismissed me, ignored me, ridiculed me. They said I was hallucinating or making it up or seeking attention. They said there was no evidence, no proof, no motive. They were wrong. There was evidence, but they didn't see it. There was proof, but they didn't find it. There was motive, but they didn't understand it. The evidence was in the recorder. The recorder that I had dropped in the basement when I saw the creature. The recorder that had captured everything, the noises, the voices, the screams. The recorder that was still in the house, waiting to be discovered. The proof was in the blood. The blood that I had left behind, on the floor, on the walls, on the door. The blood that had my DNA, my fingerprints, my identity. The blood that was still in the house, waiting to be analyzed. The motive was in the history. The history of the house, the owners, the victims. The history that I had researched after I escaped. The history that revealed a dark, sinister, and ancient secret. The history that was still in the house, waiting to be exposed. The house was cursed. Cursed by a powerful and evil force that had been there for centuries. A force that fed on fear, pain, and death. A force that lured people in with promises of wealth, happiness, and peace. A force that trapped them, tortured them, and killed them. The creature was its servant, its loyal and obedient servant that did its bidding. A servant that had once been human but had been corrupted and transformed. A servant that had no remorse, no mercy, no soul. I was its target, its next and final target that it had chosen. A target that had unknowingly entered its domain and challenged its authority. A target that had escaped its grasp and defied its will. It wanted me. It wanted me dead, or worse. It wanted me to suffer, to beg, to plead. It wanted me to join its collection of bones, of flesh, of souls. It was coming for me. It was coming for me, and it wouldn't stop. It was coming for me, and it wouldn't rest. It was coming for me, and it wouldn't leave. It was coming for me, and it was almost here. I never believed in ghosts until I visited the old mansion on the hill. It was a dark and stormy night, and I was looking for a place to stay. The mansion looked abandoned, but I saw a faint light in one of the windows. I knocked on the door, but no one answered. I decided to enter anyway, hoping to find someone who could help me. The inside of the mansion was dusty and gloomy. I walked through the hallways, calling out for anyone who might be there. I heard a creaking sound from upstairs and followed it to a room with a fireplace. The fire was the only source of light in the room, and it cast eerie shadows on the walls. I saw a portrait of a man hanging above the fireplace. He had a stern face and a piercing gaze. He looked familiar, but I couldn't remember where I had seen him before. I felt a cold breeze behind me and turned around. There was a woman standing in the doorway, wearing a white dress. She had long black hair and pale skin. She smiled at me and said, "Welcome to my home. I've been expecting you." I was startled by her sudden appearance and asked, "Who are you? How do you know me?" She walked towards me and said, "I am the lady of the house, and you are my guest. You don't remember me, do you? We met a long time ago in another life." I backed away from her, feeling a sense of dread. She looked familiar too, but I couldn't place her. She said, "Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you. I just want to talk to you. You see, you and I have a connection, a bond that transcends time and space. You are the reincarnation of my husband, the man in the portrait." She pointed at the portrait, and I gasped. The man in the portrait was me. Or rather, he looked exactly like me. He had the same eyes, the same nose, the same mouth. He was wearing a suit and a tie and had a ring on his finger. The ring was identical to the one I had on my finger, the one I inherited from my grandfather. She said, "You don't remember, but we were married in this very house 100 years ago. We were happy until he came. He was a jealous rival who wanted me for himself. He killed you and then he killed me. He burned the house down and left us to die. But we didn't die. We became ghosts trapped in this house waiting for our chance to reunite. And now, you are here. You have come back to me, my love." She reached out to touch me, and I felt a surge of fear. I realized that she was not a woman, but a ghost who wanted to drag me into her world and make me one of her own. I screamed and ran out of the room. I ran down the stairs and headed for the front door. I had to get out of this house before it was too late. But as I reached the door, I saw that it was locked. I tried to open it, but it wouldn't budge. I heard her voice behind me saying, "You can't leave, my love. You belong to me. You belong to this house. We're meant to be together. Forever." I turned around and saw her standing at the top of the stairs. She had a knife in her hand and a crazed look in her eyes. She said, "Don't worry, my love. It won't hurt. I'll make it quick. I'll cut your throat and then I'll cut mine. And then we'll be free. Free to be together. In the afterlife." She started to descend the stairs slowly and steadily. I backed away from the door, looking for a way to escape. I saw a window on the side of the wall and ran towards it. I smashed the glass with my fist and climbed out. I felt a sharp pain in my hand and saw that it was bleeding. I ignored it and jumped to the ground. I ran away from the house as fast as I could. I didn't stop running until I reached the nearest town. I found a police station and told them what happened. They didn't believe me, of course. They thought I was crazy or high or both. They checked the records and told me that the mansion had been burned down 100 years ago and that no one had lived there since. They said that the woman I saw was a legend, a ghost story that the locals told to scare each other. They said that she was the wife of a wealthy businessman who was murdered by a jealous lover, along with her husband. They said that she haunted the house, looking for her husband's reincarnation, and that she killed anyone who entered the house. They said that I was lucky to be alive, and that I should stay away from the house. They bandaged my hand and gave me a ride to the nearest hotel. They told me to forget about the whole thing and move on with my life. But I can't forget. I can't forget her face, her voice, her touch.
I can't forget the portrait, the ring, the knife. I can't forget the house, the fire, the ghost. I can't forget because I know the truth. I know that she was right. I know that I am the reincarnation of her husband. I know that we have a connection, a bond that transcends time and space. I know that she is waiting for me to come back to her, waiting for me to join her in the afterlife. And I know that I will. I know that I will go back to the house. I know that I will face her again. I know that I will let her kill me, because I love her, and I always will.